How's it going, everybody? My name is Azabiel, and I am the Guild Master of the Guild of Legends located in the heart of the multiverse, and we are in Starbound. Unlike our previous time playing, we are playing a very modded version of Starbound. You can see mentions Frackin' Universe, which is the main sort of mod pack that we're using, which completely overhauls the game, so we're going to see how that goes. And also planning to try brainstorming some ideas for D&D campaigns to use in the future. So, went ahead and made a completely new character using one of the races that this mod pack adds in. And so we're going to jump into it and see how it goes. I don't know if this race gets their own unique intro mission or not. I know some of them do. Uh, but I guess we'll see about this one. Okay, it looks like this uses the default intro mission. Um, so we'll try to push through this real quick. Oh, it gives me a gun right away. That's a different kind of weapon. It charges. All right. So I mentioned I want to kind of work on some D&D campaign ideas, do some TTRPG talk while we're playing here. And the reason for that is that I am looking to work on some ideas for some campaigns that I'll probably end up running in the new year at some point. And I thought this would be an opportunity to do that while playing a game that I can mostly just kind of turn off my brain for, because I've played it a fair amount and I'm fairly familiar with most of how it works, even with the mods. I can't skip this. So, I do have a little notes document that I've got open on the side here, so I can take down some ideas as they come to me. But we'll be working on that while we're going through this. I didn't really come up with any plan in advance or anything, so we're just gonna kind of wing it as we are used to doing with D&D. So let's see if I can bring this audio down a little bit so that it's not quite so loud in the moments where the audio kicks in. Who needs plans besides general things like sexy goblin? Well, you know, that is certainly a thing. Certainly a thing that happens in D&D sometimes. I'm gonna take all of this because I want to. Hot vampires. Are there vampires that aren't hot in D&D? Like in classic storytelling and stuff, sure, but in D&D? Nah, those don't exist in D&D. And if they do, it's just a form that the hot vampires can turn into, so, you know. Can I take this stuff too? Okay. Nothing up there. So when I'm thinking about D&D campaign ideas, I have kind of a couple ways of going about it because I like to mess around with different genres and stuff as well. You know, not always just doing a classic fantasy with all the magic and whatnot. Um, Sometimes it's also sci-fi or uh, post-apocalyptic or superheroes. You know, whatever the case might be. There's a lot of different things you can do with TTRPGs, and one of the things I like about D&D 5e is that it's really simplified compared to other systems, but it still has enough crunch, as some people put it, to oh, what am I doing here? I need to pick ship. Do these guys not have their own ship? Oh, that's weird. Um, well, I don't want to do. Hold on, what did I click on? Okay, vanilla ship. I think that's what I need. There's a lot of people who will say that you know, if you want to do a different genre or whatever, then there are other systems that are more well suited to that. But I'm of the opinion that you know, 5e is a sort of game system that works really well for being adapted to whatever you need it to be. Yeah, nothing is as easy to hop into as five is as easy to hop into as 5e. I agree with that absolutely, Zero G. Um, it's super easy to get into, and it has, you know, the fairly widespread whoops, I did that wrong. The fairly widespread um, player base already. So it's really easy to find people that also want to play it. And it's a way that you can try these other settings and genres and stuff without people needing to learn something new. It's just kind of already incredibly well set up for that. Actually, I'll put my flashlight here. I'm going to put a second version of the gun there. That way, if I am in the dark, I can still use a weapon. And I don't need... Whoops. I do need that one. It was these I wanted. So yeah, and I've had a fair amount of experience playing. That's a really loud dagger. Um, I've had a fair amount of experience playing 5e with different genres and settings and stuff as well. So I already know from personal experience that it works out really well for that. So I'm completely uh, I'm completely of the mind that it works out really well for that kind of stuff. So I think really the what I plan to do is probably have a few different campaign ideas that I can kind of... I hate this knife. This is so ridiculously loud. A couple different campaign ideas that I can work on refining and building something out with. But sort of to start, I think my goal is to figure out kind of what general ideas for campaigns I would want to do. Whether it's... I think the best starting point is sort of the genre, right? And I think regardless of what else I do, I'm definitely going to have one or two campaign ideas that are just typical uh typical fantasy stuff. Something that's easy for people to get into without even thinking about what kind of game they're going to play. They just, they hear D&D and they think fantasy and they're ready to jump into it. So I think it makes sense to have something like that. But then from there, you can always change it up quite a bit by refining the core concepts of what a campaign would be in that kind of a setting. So yeah, genre or setting or theme, definitely the right places to start. So I'm gonna just hack down some trees here real quick, and then I'm gonna pop on over to my notes page real quick, because I do want to jot down some ideas as we're going here. So like I said, definitely going to do some classic fantasy stuff. Well, I think saying classic fantasy kind of sets the wrong idea. Just fantasy in general, right? Magic and swords and, bows and all that good stuff. Movie set. That's an interesting idea. And I'm going to add in the note that PCs are actors, just so I remember what it means when I go back later and read movie set in my notes. But yeah, I think with fantasy, you can break it down into a whole lot of things. It can be kind of this dark, grim fantasy, things like Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Diablo, all that good stuff. Which I think that's pretty fun to mess around with a little bit. But then you've also got other things that you can drop in there, like you see a lot of like steampunk type things and stuff like that in a lot of fantasy these days. So I think being ready for potentially using that kind of stuff as well would be a good idea. I do have a sort of high fantasy, like high magic setting that I already have done some amount of work on. That I cannot hit this guy. That I've already even done some gameplay of, both on stream and off. You can see if you check out my VODs, you can see that I've done a little two-parter with some other streamer buddies in this setting called Elysian Twilight. So I think when I think of like high fantasy, I think that's probably what I'm leaning towards when when I'm considering potential campaign ideas in the future. And that's also kind of an interesting one because it's not just your classical fantasy elements. There's some elements of kind of like steampunk and other modern concepts pushed into the setting. Yeah, Magitech, stuff like that. Which is also, a bit of a departure from what people generally expect when they think of fantasy, probably. But it's also a lot of fun, for me at least. Everything is trying to kill. And I can't hit anything. I don't want it! Stop it! Leave me alone! Alright. I think... Nope, I'm not safe here. I'm going to die. If I was a little quicker to hit my warp to ship button. I think I am going to take this sword because I am not digging. Wow, inventory, please. I'm not digging this. This knife is not great. Um, as far as like dark fantasy goes, I've got this setting that I'm currently using in a campaign called Dominion. Very much inspired by things like Diablo and Bloodborne and all that stuff. Though I have some different concepts I would like to use with it. One of the big elements. Good lord, can I please? Can I please just live a little bit? Um, I have a number of different sort of different versions of the Dominion setting that I am looking to expand for use in the future. Um, because as Dominion is currently, it's a world that is in the middle of interplanar war, right? Uh, there are the Celestials and there are Fiends, and those are at war with one another. And then Dominion is sort of in the middle of it, but there's also a darker side, the Stalker's realm, where which is sort of a plane of shadow and void, um, that is sort of a corrupting force. And one of the big elements to kind of set the stage with Dominion is that the world goes into the world is overtaken by gloom every day, uh, which casts the world in darkness. You only get about 4 hours of daylight on any given day, and so it's just this literally dark world. It is uh, full of creatures of the night, monsters like vampires and werewolves and undead and things like that that just terrorize normal people. And some of these elements come together to inspire what these future ideas for for the setting would be. Um, some of the kind of names that I have brainstormed to try to get the idea in my head for what I'd like to do with the setting are Tyranny of Light and what was this other one? It was something. I didn't really come up with a name that I liked for it, but sort of the working idea was A New Dawn, which is inspired by the idea that there is a point where maybe the darkness, the gloom that overtakes Dominion recedes, and it's sort of stepping away from what what elements that gloom was causing for Dominion, and instead looking at what you can do with dark fantasy when it's not literally dark. And kind of some of the inspiration for that is things like Elden Ring, where you have a visually very bright world a lot of the time, but there's still just so much that is inherently wrong and twisted with it. And I thought that would be a fun thing to mess with a little bit. The freedom of shadow. All right. Let me go back here. As a mirror to Tyranny of Sun. Uh, that's an interesting idea. Let me go back here a second. I think Magitech can be cool if everyone is on board with it. Sometimes if I want to play a low-tech medieval guy that's in a high fantasy universe, it can kind of take me out if all of a sudden there's a train powered by arcane crystals. Yep. Yeah, that's definitely a thing you come across anytime you're messing with different genres is uh, the idea that not everyone uh, the group might not always be entirely on the same page, which is something that I try to make clear anytime uh, I'm running a game. I want to make sure everyone understands what the plan is, what kind of campaign we're looking to play and everything. Um, just to make sure that it is going to be a good, fun experience for everybody. Because in the end, we are playing these games to have a good time, and if someone isn't having a good time, that's kind of counter to the original goal. So, what about a dying age, sort of like a Witcher 3 aspect, where the age of monsters and magic is quickly dying out, and the group is some of the last adventures they'd be, or something. Goal to find out why magic is fading from the world. That's also an interesting idea. I think that's one. If you're leaning into kind of the Witcher vibes, that's definitely something that you can play in Dark Fantasy. I think that'd also be something you could play in just kind of any general fantasy setting that doesn't rely heavily on magic being a driving force for everything. Um, because if all of a sudden everything in the world breaks because there's no more magic or magic is fading, then it's going to be a very different situation than just what the initial setup goes for. Um, but yeah, let's see. Um, there's some cool ideas to be sure. Definitely stuff I want to kind of think about more and kind of refine a little bit as we go along. But I also want to throw out some other ideas, some maybe non-fantasy ideas, um, because something I've been really wanting to do lately, especially I kind of delved back into some old campaign stuff. I opened up Roll20 for the first time in I think 2 years or something, something close to it at least, and was seeing some of my older stuff that I haven't really touched in quite a while. Uh, Cyberpunk, Mass Effect, those are two big ones we want to do. Those are definitely really good ones. I actually have mentioned in Discord with you that I've actually got a setting very much inspired by Mass Effect in a general sense, but also kind of the storyline based on Mass Effect Andromeda, where stuff is going down, people need to leave this galaxy, and they need to kind of set up somewhere new, somewhere very distant where humanity hasn't touched the place. Um, so I would definitely like to explore that setting again. Uh, so kind of looking at some sci-fi options. We've got Cyberpunk, which I would really like to play with that as well. Um, I have some ideas for kind of converting a setting that I already have into Cyberpunk. Uh, so let me jot down some notes here real quick. Um, and then we've got Mass Effect kind of inspired things. So for that, I have a setting that I've dabbled with a little bit, and anyone who is in my Discord server, if they've checked out the Astral Gates, it doesn't get used a lot. My server doesn't have a whole lot of banter or anything going on, but it does help me keep my notes straight and my settings in mind instead of just being lost in folders somewhere in my computer. But I've got my Maelstrom Galaxy setting, which doesn't have a cool proper name. It's just the name of the place. But that's sort of my Mass Effect Andromeda inspired thing. And then for Cyberpunk, I've got sort of this future twist on a setting that I have called Sunbeam City, which I also use for modern campaign ideas or anything like that that is set in like a modern day kind of alternate Earth type city, like you would see in comic books and stuff like that. And speaking of Sunbeam City, I've also used Sunbeam City was actually based on a different setting of mine called Hope Falls, which was used for a post-apocalyptic setting. So Hope Falls is one that I've really been wanting to do, and Sunbeam City is something I've really been wanting to do. Whether it's superheroes or otherwise, I've just going back into some of those old Roll20 games and seeing some of the old ideas made me really want to get back into it and see what I could do with those settings in a new campaign, because it's been years since I've touched any of those older settings. I've just been playing fantasy games for the last couple years, pretty much. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to changing up a little bit as we move into the future here. This guy can take a lot of hits. An urban magic world that is basically just modern but has all the monsters and magic hidden away from the general public. That is also something I've wanted to dabble with. I feel like it's something that would... I mean, I'm probably just looking at it from someone who hasn't really tried doing that kind of thing or anything. But similar to when I was dabbling with Dark Fantasy, I always felt like if I tried to do any horror type elements in D&D, it would be something I would really struggle with. But then when I actually started trying it out, it came to me a lot easier than I thought it would. So that's something I would like to try. It seems like it would be difficult to me right now, but I also think it would be really fun. Having seen what those kinds of settings can do, it would be really cool to try it out, I think. Sort of the secret, like the hidden world type magic setting. This whole basically non-human races had these glamours on to appear human. They had little covens and whatnot. And this one super organization tracked them all. That sounds really cool. I would definitely be interested in hearing more about that at some point. lot of these crates are empty for some reason. They're usually more populated, but maybe that's just a change with the mods. Let's see. Have I gotten anything good to replace some of my weapons? Maybe. These weapons don't have stats, but I'm gonna guess they're kind of trash. So we're gonna see about replacing them. Oh, what is this? This is a slow pistol. This one is kind of faster. Let's try the... Whoops. Let's try them both out. And see what I like more. Hammers. I don't like using hammers in this game. And... super big on bows either, but maybe we'll try it out a little bit. Oh, I can switch to a different ammo type. What's this do? Rebounding arrow. That's interesting. Let's see. So this weapon is using this kind of ammo mechanic that is added with Fracking Universe. I think this one is more just a classic Starbound gun, where it just uses your energy. I am terrible at aiming. Oh, it's interesting. It uses ammo, but also uses energy. Alright, that's all sorted. Yeah, this... Oh, I didn't notice this one. I think I'm gonna go with that one, actually. I don't know what the damage is like, but I like the fire rate and the fact that it is not just standard damage type. It's like... it's a death-powered gun or something. Alright. So let's move some of this stuff out of the way, because I'm not going to use it. You played a character that worked for the organization. Any that threatened to reveal got taken care of. Ah, incredible. There we go. I can see now. Alright, so I think there's something I need from here still, probably, right? There's still a purpose to this dungeon, maybe? I don't know, maybe not. Okay, so I have a variety of ideas I can work with, like the base concepts for different like genres, and some ideas for kind of general themes and loose campaign concepts. So I think from there, what I'm going to have to do is kind of refine what I want to turn those into, what kind of adventures I would want to run in those worlds. Let me find somewhere to start here. Right. I wonder if this one would be faster since it does a lot of damage. So I think I'm gonna look to start with what would I want to start with? Oh, actually, you know what I haven't covered? I think I do want to have some room in I added Elysian Twilight for high fantasy, but I think I want to add some room for something different that is more kind of general fantasy feeling. And I think that would be a good place to start with. Have considered Dieselpunk? I haven't really. I know there's a lot of people with interest in Dieselpunk settings and stuff like that, but it's never been something I've thought about too much. You know, from what I've seen, that is a pretty cool setting. Oh, stop hurting me, bro. I can't see. Alright, well that guy's in the bottom of the pond now. Okay, I think this is just going to natural caves. I think this is part of the dungeon anymore. I don't know what that little glow is about. Some sort of racial trait that kicked on, maybe? I don't know what would have triggered it, though. Alright. Let's go ahead and get out of this cave. So, oh, you know what I also didn't mention? You kind of mentioned it before, but sci-fi, fantasy, sci-fantasy, whatever you want to call it, I want to keep some of that in mind. So, like, to that end, I do have a setting that already kind of plays into that, but also I think I want to do something a little bit more Star Wars inspired, that kind of where tech is clunky and it really works to lean into the more fantasy elements as well. But I do have one that is a bit more like Fantasy Star inspired, which I've been using a little bit recently for some new players to D&D, called Code Azure, where there is a decently widespread source of magic. All of the technology is very advanced, and there are a group of heroes, basically, that protect the common folk, the people who need help protecting, from otherworldly creatures called Lethe. Let's see. Pod races, I think, are a cool example of that, to be honest. The sound they make and them being obviously sci-fi, super clunky and death trappy. Yeah, pod racers are something I think is super cool. Um, and it really does kind of make it clear how this setting is when it comes to technology and stuff. It's not refined and clean and, you know, nice. It is they are aggressive, powerful, deadly machines that for some reason the people of these worlds let children pilot. So that's fun. Yeah, so I'll make some note for these other kind of sci-fantasy type settings that I'd like to dabble with as well. Um, but yeah, I think a good starting place for figuring out kind of the what sort of adventure this to start with, you know, what would be like the best starting place is this kind of general fantasy thing. So, I think what I'll probably do is probably come up with an entirely new setting for that. Because I don't like using pre-existing settings unless they're settings that I made, because then I can, you know, I'm aware of what all the lore is, and if I'm not aware of it, I can make it up. A lot easier than if it's a pre-existing thing, right? Yeah, what story do I want to tell? That's kind of where we need to go from. Um, so I feel like came up with the story of TOT before I came up with the setting. Yeah, I think that's kind of the angle I'm going for this general fantasy one. Um, I need to talk to this guy. Research geology. It's research furnace, which means I need cobblestone. So this is a big part of what makes these mods interesting, is that your progression through the game is not just limited by crafting and upgrading various workbenches. It's also limited by this research system that determines how you learn new things. So you have this research currency that builds up over time, and you can do certain things to get more of it, get it faster, things like that. But then you also need certain materials to unlock certain research nodes. So right now I need cobblestone to do the basic geology research. Now I can start researching different materials that I've gotten some amount of the material for. So since I've got ore for all those different types of metals, I can research how to smelt those metals now. So I'm going to need to make an inventor's table so that I can then make other buildings. Okay, so the I think the hardest part for me when it comes to starting a new adventure is figuring out the core idea of what I want to do with that adventure. So that's where I'm really gonna struggle here, is figuring out what what I want to do, right? So I'm gonna definitely be thinking about that a little bit. But again, absolutely open to uh, hearing suggestions in the chat. Still struggling with that for an Edifidem. Incredible. I mean, it feels to me like the way that you've kind of set yourself up for that one is how I would set myself up for a lot of the more kind of sandbox games that I would run, where there's not a core goal, at least not at the beginning, to the adventure. There's not like a main story until there is. Um, but more recently, I've been thinking that I would like to try having that main story before I even start the game. Yeah, low level stuff you want to keep sandbox. TOT had a main story immediately. Yeah, and I think that came across compared to this one where, like you said, there's low level stuff is sandbox, so no like guiding force there beyond presumably the whatever paths the players might pick and what little like side quests and stuff you throw out as well. Now it wants me to research agriculture, he mentioned, so I'm going to need dirt, cobblestone, and timber, which I need more timber. I need more cobblestone and dirt I'm good on. As far as like main story stuff goes, uh, some of the games I've been running professionally lately, uh, have all had sort of a main story from pretty early on, uh, and that kind of guided where the rest of the game was going to go, even if a lot of it was sort of like side quests that players picked up through NPCs they've met or personal goals that they've wanted to pursue, separated from anything that I put in front of them. Is that bear gonna try to kill me? It doesn't seem to be. Let's just get a decent amount of cobblestone here. And so with these adventures I've been running professionally, one of the things that made it really easy to kind of figure out the base idea and then build on as we went with the campaign is that I started with the idea that the players were dropped into this world. They're going to hunt some vampires. That's the one that's been going the longest did that. But one of the ones I ran previously, they were dropped into this world in this tiny little village in the middle of nowhere, and this village had a burial site nearby, and there was a witch who had seen visions of this coming darkness, and so they had to they were prompted to go to this burial site and see if they could figure out what's going on there. Along the way, they also had some side quests to deal with some bandits that were plaguing this village as well. Ultimately, they went to this place, and there was an ancient king that was released, and he he was sealed away. There was an attempt to execute this guy that didn't take, and so they instead used magic to seal him away. And the reason that it didn't work is because he was dealing with otherworldly powers. He was working with demons and things like that. And so when he became released, the main story plot line was finding out how to track this guy down and stop him. And so I knew at that point I had the beginning of the story right away. I had kind of the end point, which is the party stopping this guy, and so everything in the middle fell into place very naturally. Um, Same with the vampires, right? The party is told there's a vampire here, go fight it. When they do, they find out that there's other vampires, and so they're sent on this kind of long series of quests to hunt down each of these other vampires that they learned about that are working towards something, which the party has been able to pick up on sub elements of as they've been going. So I think finding that starting point, possibly the ending point, but I feel like that comes very naturally once you figure out what is the triggering event, what starts off the story. So I think I'm kind of sitting on a blank screen here. I think to try to figure that out, what I would want to do is figure out what would be figure out if I want to do something based on an interesting type of enemy. Like I did that with vampires. I thought vampires would be a cool enemy, so I made an adventure with vampires. Um, do I want it to be less about coming up with an adventure based around an interesting enemy, more about what that enemy is trying to do being the interesting thing? An adventure based around titans. What kind of titans are you talking about? Greek titans. That's an interesting idea. Um, that would be really cool. Uh, I previously had a Greek themed adventure, but I didn't. Uh, it wasn't a very long running campaign, unfortunately. Um, Let me see here. Uh, so yeah, kind of when I started talking about it, I figured you have like something about the enemy is interesting, whether it's the specific type of creature they are or the type of magic they use, something like that. Something about what they're doing is interesting, whatever their evil scheme is. Um, could be the thing that makes the adventure interesting. Uh, but I feel like there's got to be some elements beyond just those two things that could make an interesting focus to determine would uh, what this enemy would be, and it's not quite coming to me yet. Um, okay, so I wasn't paying attention to what this guy said. Um, you know what? I am gonna make a growing tray, even though I don't have a source of water yet. I could make a well. Uh, I could actually probably do that now. Now, I wonder if the well will work on my ship. It wouldn't make a lot of sense, but it'd sure be handy. I could definitely put it on my ship. I don't have anywhere to put this, though. Let me see if I can make some platforms. Oh, I need plant fibers to make platforms in this. That's wild. I was not aware. So let me see if I can track down some plant fibers real quick. Aegis campaign setting. I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that in the slightest. I don't think this is iron. This is lead. Oh. Okay. I am familiar with that. I don't know if I had ever heard the name. It's an interesting little ruin here. Is the an old abandoned house? This would actually be kind of a cool structure to clean up and rebuild. There's not even anything in here. Alright. That's cool. Came for plant fibers. Need plant fibers. I don't think that first animal was hostile, but it's dealt with now. These things are in the wild? Or, well, I guess in these mods they can be. I don't think they are normally. There's some plant fibers. I don't think I needed much, just needed like one, so yeah, call that good. I was pre-Collide, which Collide was when two worlds smashed together and shit got all weird. The city was split in two, thousands of miles away. A bunch of people from another world appeared. Time got all murky. Yeah, I remember. If I remember correctly, sort of the hook was that mysterious lady says, "Hey, this thing's going down, and you're gonna either help stop it or help make it happen." um, I think depending on who we were talking to at any given time, because strangely enough, different people had different interests and wanted different things. I'll just sell the pickaxe. I don't really use them that much. Hey, bud, how's it going? Yeah? Ow. Alright. I've been invaded by a cat. In case you couldn't hear him. Okay, so... oh, it doesn't work. Alright, so what I'm gonna have to do is... because this is... a bit of a mess anyway to keep all on the ship. I'll just go somewhere planet side and establish myself there. Oh, do I have potatoes for you, man? Paper. Okay. Actually, you know what I might do? I'll, I'll just go... I'll go back to that house and use that. Sure is dark. Oh, my cat now wants to sit right in front of my screen and see what's going on there. So that's fun. Yeah, I'm talking about you. So I'm going to work on cleaning this place up a bit and just making this my hideout. And while we're at it, I'll just have my new well set up outside. Let's see. Where do you want to go, bud? Ah, there you are. Okay. You're gonna sit right there. Sit just right up on... Yeah, that works. That's fine. Okay, so where am I? I need my crafting tables and whatnots. Put those there. Let's see. Try to level out this ground a little bit as well. Just get rid of this hill. And the main reason I want to do that is so that I can put... Where's my dirt? So I can put the growing tray here for now, since I'll want it, you know, somewhere that I can access it. And what do I want to grow? Do I want to grow corn? Corn would probably be the easiest way to go. Oh, you're making me hit buttons. There you go. There you go. If I throw... Nope, dirt doesn't work there. So we're gonna have to figure out what works as fertilizer. Actually, I have a feeling I know what works as fertilizer, and I just saw it up on this hill. I'll take that. Thank you. Where'd it go? There it is. I'll get some water. Throw that in there. It's not the shiniest way of doing things, but it should get it done. I bet if I went into the research, I would probably be able to see better ways to do that. But, oh, I hunger. I still got some of these rations. I need to research engineering and make a... Whoops, wrong one. Need to make a machining table. We'll go ahead and do the extraction basics as well. So for the machining table, I need some paper, which this person also wanted me to make paper anyway, so I'm going to make a few of those. Make the machining table. put this light up out of the way. What's in the way? There we go. Okay, so that... For some reason, the machining table has such a big footprint that that support was in the way. But that's not an issue now. Wants me to make some wire. Wants me to make an electromagnet. And I've done a thing. I think I could already teleport there, but that's fine. All right. You know what? It's fine holding on to this stuff. I am gonna upload a bunch of this stuff. Storage containers I'll keep. I'll just throw those down in the house later. Let me go back to this place to give the NPC the paper that they wanted. I want me to throw corn in a mill. Which I know how to make. I think I have to make it on a machining table. We will definitely get back to the RPG talk. I just hit a point where I had a handful of things I could do real quick. And milk. What setting or genre appeals to me most? All of them. All of them is the answer. I want to play all of them. And that is part of why I'm not settling with just a single idea for a campaign. I'm working on multiple ideas because then I can have options. One thing that a lot of these fracking universe machines lack is they will, like, you can put stuff into it, right? And it'll be there, and then it'll disappear when it starts processing it. And then just eventually, whenever it's done processing, it'll dump out whatever its output is. But it does nothing to tell you what its progress is. Which is just... Because, like, it's not going to be the end of the world if, like, I take stuff and then I walk away before it's done processing everything. Like, that's fine. But it would be just kind of nice to know how far along this stuff is, especially because it takes at least a few seconds to actually process. There's your oil. Craft a lantern stick. Foraging station. Did I already have the foraging station? Is that what I... Is that what this was? Yeah, foraging table. Lantern on a stick. I need this research for, though. So let's go ahead and go back and... Don't have a preference for the setting. Like them all equally. That's crazy. I mean, I feel like the reason for it is that I don't know what the reason for it is exactly, but it's why in the past I tried, you know, I ran campaigns in, like, what, probably like 5 or 6 different campaigns simultaneously that were all in different genres and settings and stuff. Like, I just like I'll have the idea, right? Might be while I have other games going, but I'll have the idea for something I want to try, and then I would just do it. And that happens no matter what. Like right now I'm running a dark fantasy game. I'm playing in a high fantasy game. I'm playing in a sci-fi game. But I still just want to do a zombie apocalypse, right? So, speaking of which, that is definitely one of the ones that I am throwing into my list of notes for Hope Falls is a zombie apocalypse. Because that one came about when I was when I was first playing Project Zomboid. I just really wanted to do that, but in D&D. Let's see. I came here to make... Oh, is this a faulty flashlight? No, it's just normal flashlight, so... I don't know why... Seems like I should start with this, or start with no flashlight, since you can make them anyway. Then I have to upgrade to this, like I need it to upgrade to the flashlight too, but it is what it is. So I need an explorer's lantern, and for that I need more oil and a torch. Let's see, how do you make a torch? Because I don't seem to be able to just make those in my inventory anymore. Oh, yes I can, I'm just blind. So I'll need coal from right over here. And I'll need more oil, which, corn was getting me oil. They also mentioned bone. So I could crack open some of this and just start taking the bones out of the wall. Yeah, so in regards to what would make interesting adventures, I would definitely be down to hear maybe it's like I could go through all the different creature types that exist in D&D and the monster manual and everything, and just pick an interesting monster out of there and use that as a basis. But also, I might overlook some things, or just at a glance, something might not seem interesting and someone might have more knowledge on the matter than I do. So I'd be interested in hearing if anyone has any ideas for what would be interesting types of creatures to base an enemy off of. I think that might be the way that I go with this, is coming up with an interesting enemy. One that comes to mind is sort of the A5E take on Mind Flayers, because they can't do Mind Flayers. It's, you know, a whole issue with IP, I think. But they have bug aliens that serve a lot of the same, like, creature type and story type purpose as Mind Flayers. So that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Oh, I probably need more bones for this to actually work. Well, fortunately, I do have corn growing over here. So, if nothing else, in time I'll be able to do this by growing corn. In the meantime, I want to build a chainsaw. Because I have some oil, so I can make that. And maybe I'll make a couple more growing trays to grow more corn and stuff. Starship Troopers defeat the bugs. That is an interesting take on it. But yeah, I thought when I was first reading through kind of the A5e bestiary. Those things caught my eye because they're clearly not anything that's in stock 5e, but then when you actually read into it, you can pick up on the hints that they're very, very clearly based on mind flayers. They kind of reproduce the same way, and they have similar, you know, mind-based abilities and stuff like that. I'm curious to see if I have enough... Oh, no, I don't have any matter manipulator upgrade things. I'm going to try to get rid of this hill real quick while I'm talking about this. So you know what? Since I mentioned it, maybe I will use those creatures as a basis. Let me pop open the book here real quick to remember what I'm talking about, because I don't even remember what they're called. I just remember it starts with a K. Okay, yep. Calcoy or something along those lines. A different style of game, maybe one more political and intrigue based. I've specifically avoided trying to do anything politics or intrigue based because I feel like I'm too dumb for that. That kind of thing isn't like I used to say it about horror that it's just like it's not a genre that I ever take in media for, which isn't entirely accurate. I still play like Alan Wake and Control and, you know, Elden Ring and stuff like that. So and ended up being a genre that I was more familiar with than I really gave myself credit for. The politics and intrigue stuff, though, is something that just feels so entirely foreign to me that I wouldn't even know where to start. I feel like it would boil down to me just doing a lot of research in my downtime, which I tend to do for D&D anyway, but feeling like I have to just to keep the core basis of a game going is on a different level. So I don't think I would go for that style of game personally. I don't even know if I would have an interest in being a player in that sort of a thing, if that's like the core basis of it. Being a player and being the DM are very different experiences, I think, in that kind of a genre, but and just in general, but also I feel like in that genre, you know, as a player you have yourself and your interests to worry about, whereas as the DM you've got all these other things, and it's much more in-depth structures than just this is the bad guy, these are his minions, he's trying to kill you and take over the world or something, you know. What you want, dude? I need my arm here, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. Now, this rainforest floor seems to be tougher than dirt. And I'm not sure why. I also don't know why there's only, like, a small patch of rainforest floor here. Seems kind of out of place. I feel like nothing else about this area is rainforest. Just the tiniest of microbiomes. Why are you pushing my arm out of the way, dude? I'm trying to play a game. I'm trying to do a stream, bro. Okay, so I have an idea for a primary enemy type that I would like to, whether the main bad guy is one of these things or these are like just something introduced through the main bad guy, whoever that main bad guy ends up being, remains to be seen, but they're going to play a big role in it regardless. That much we know so far. The what is it called? The mind wasps? Yeah. So we'll mess around with those guys a little bit in whatever this campaign ends up being. Um, and I think this is one I want to do the setting a little bit differently than I've done in the past. I have a habit of making my settings in such a way that like I'll use a map generator or something and have the entire the bulk of the world or the entire world or whatever the case might be, like I start big, and I feel like that is a point of failure. uh Not necessarily failure, I suppose, but it's sort of a sort of complicates things, I feel like, that don't need to be. I think it's probably better to start small and build out from there, which is something that I have a hard time considering. Um, as fun as it can be to have this much grander world around you, like even if you look at something like Elden Ring as an example, it's something that's been on my mind recently because I just reinstalled it. But they give you the lands between, and this consists of something like what, 5 or 6 regions, and it's definitely not the entire world because they talk about people coming to the lands between from elsewhere. There's the land of reeds and other places like that are mentioned in the game. So they kind of, in a way, start small. They give you effectively what was, to my understanding, unless I'm forgetting things because it's been a while since I've looked at lore stuff. But what seems to be like a single country that is now fragmented because of story reasons. Um, but that's a lot less even than I usually do because I'll usually do entire, you know, massive land masses and several of them all on a single map and stuff like that. That uh, is all available for the players to see and everything, basically from the get go. And I want to not do that this time. Uh, so I'm definitely going to start smaller with it, but I think the details of this setting is something that I'm going to work out later on. I don't think I need to worry about that too much just yet. I think I want to work a little bit more on what the story of it all is. So we have a frequent enemy, which is these space bug parasite things. We're probably going to come up with a primary villain that is going to be introduced at some point in the campaign, possibly early on, possibly wait a little bit later. That remains to be seen. I'm gonna build this thing. There we go. Oh, cool! I can buy food here. Can I sell to a vending machine? I can. Cool. Don't know how that works, but that's a really, really useful vending machine. I'm gonna sell this stuff too. Oh, cool. I can buy storage lockers and a bed. You can buy all the furniture. That's really cool. All right. I can also buy some lore codex things. Uh, Neat. I didn't know that they had that through this thing. Uh, so we're gonna come up with our villain. We've got our frequent enemy. Our setting, I don't think, is going to play directly into the plot, at least not yet. We might find ways to tie like the history of the setting into it later on, but that'll come once we figure out some element of what the setting is, I think. White Walker and Night King thing where there are stories about him from ages past. That could be. Um Now what I think I want to figure out is some element of the objective for the enemy, because I think once I figure that out, it can help determine what the long term events that would play into the campaign would be. So if this is someone who's trying to get revenge, then we know what the enemy's end game is, and that potentially introduces allies for the players and you know story elements that play into that. If they're trying to take over the world, then we know the end goal is stopping them from taking over the world or destroying the world or whatever the case might be. um Now the creature, uh the Calcoy, they're like mind flayers. But they are kind of this insectoid species, and they reproduce by leaving their larvae in people that then kind of doesn't go well for the people. Um, what's interesting about these ones, though, the difference between these and mind flayers is while they leave the larva in a host, the end result is different. The mind flayers, they take over the host body and they mutate them and stuff like that, whereas these things, they just kind of uh, hatch from the host and grow up to do their own thing. It seems like. Um, Let me see. Yeah. So playing off of the idea of these enemies, I think the there's probably a couple. Yeah, something like that. I feel like there's a couple ways to uh play off of this based on the creature. So depending on the creature details, how strong the end result is. So if they caught a dragon, that's big danger. That's an interesting idea. Them uh infesting other more powerful creature types and stuff like that. That's a cool idea. Um but yeah, I feel like these if these things come to a world to uh for whatever reason. They could be there to just at the base, the most base level of what their species may be trying to just reproduce. So the end goal for them would be just fully kind of taking over the planet, maybe turning the world into some sort of almost like a farm type situation, right? Uh, Rather than just wiping out everything, they take control of everything and then use it to further their own reproduction and stuff. Alternatively, a thought I had is that there could be something on this world that drew these things here, um, which I feel like that is a little bit more interesting. That's actually a cool idea. The idea that as they start kind of taking over areas, they spread this substance across the surface that is a sign of their presence. Probably does something to make it more hospitable to their species. Okay, so I kind of like how this is shaping up a little bit here. I may get back into Starbound here, so I'm not just sitting on a static screen for the stream here. Uh, okay. Um, so we've got some of the core elements. Now one thing I have yet to determine then is having some sort of primary villain is very common in D&D. You usually have sort of the face of the enemies, whether it's their leader or a group of leaders or something like that. You usually have something that you can put an identity to kind of be the focus of your player's ire. Um, I need a Kerrigan. Exactly. So actually, what I was trying to determine is, do I want this to be someone who has like a full understanding of what these things are? Is it going to be someone who like knows that like if they bring these things here, they're probably going to be just eradicated along like everything else probably is going to be, or is it maybe someone who is looking for to kind of hit the next stage in their evolution? What if it's a guy who knows how to manipulate them? That that's a good idea. That's something that I was thinking initially before I fully knew what some of these other ideas were going to be. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that's kind of on board with what I would want to do with it. Someone who's controlling these things as opposed to just being another target for them. Um, Yeah, I think that works out really well. And then the specifics of the identity of that villain is I think something that's beyond the scope of what I'm planning to do here for this stream. But whoops, I accidentally got rid of background. I'll have to put those back in. Um, so now we know a common enemy type that's going to show up in the campaign, which is the Calcoi, these parasitic mind bugs, these mind wasps. Um, we have the most basic concepts of sort of the primary antagonist as a whoops, someone scheming to control these things and presumably use them to their own ends. I think that sounds good. I'm gonna need to close up this area at some point. It's kind of a hazard. But I need to drop this in here because I don't know how to make any other kind of fertilizer right now. So I can only really go off of what we've got already going on here. Got corn in those two. Maybe in this one I'll throw wheat seeds, even though I don't have everything else I need for this yet. I think I need another corn before this will even start thinking about things. So instead I'll put the fertilizer in this one. It needs to be useful to them somehow, which allows him initial control. That makes sense. So I think then that the villain is probably the thing that would have drawn them here. Whether it was the villain directly contacting them or maybe using some sort of artifact or calling upon some sort of magic to do so. I think uh, the villain did it. Um, what the villain did, we'll figure out another time, but we know it was the villain that did it. Let me go ahead and get rid of the furniture in here because I'm not going to use any of it. And you know what? That one could stay. It's actually the only thing that doesn't seem like super broken. And everyone needs a toilet. All right. So let me look at this. I've got yeah, we got the villain, we've got the common enemy, we've got some elements, some loose ideas about what how did this calamity arrive? How long ago? Well, what I had in mind is that this would be something that came about pretty recently, but I think kind of going based off of a mention you had before is that it's a type of creature that maybe is known in legends, at least to some people. Not necessarily from them having been here previously. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But there at least would be some knowledge of them in advance. Um, as far as like the current invasion, we'll call it, uh, I think I think what would be most interesting would be, like you said, it is yet to arrive in force. So I previously had a concept for a um a D&D character that was based on uh a species that I'd come up with that was sort of world traveling conquerors, and the character I was playing was sort of uh the very first like infiltrator of this species. Not that the species was like a villain in the campaign or anything, but just like their backstory was that these guys are out there and I'm here because my species is interested in conquering this planet. So I think I would go with something like that where the bugs are out there, they're getting ready, but they're just scouting for now. Um, so like at the start of the campaign, it might not even be, the players might be aware of some of the elements of what this campaign is going to be, but the characters probably aren't thinking, oh no, we've got bugs invading, right? Because it hasn't happened yet. Just they're laying the groundwork, doing their initial scouting, getting things ready for a full proper invasion. uh and it would be something that the players can gradually learn about. It can be, it'll be what the villain is working on in the background while other, everything else is going on. um there we go. Maybe have a quick collapse of kingdoms prepared. Something to take note of for sure. um to kind of show how things are progressing as the adventure goes on. Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of these like worn out the old timber. Also, while I'm here, I'll make some fresh blocks and kind of patch up the floor a little bit where I can. It seems like that would probably go around like that. Let's make some more. I don't have the means to make these like fancier looking tiles, uh, like the baseboards, but get rid of these ones that don't match while we're at it. Okay. Um, starting to get dark. Do I have torches? Whoops. That's probably fine anyway. Um, torches. Start lighting up the areas here so I can see what I'm doing. All right. Whoops. Let's go and grab some more water because I think this one was a bit short on water. Make sure we can have that going properly. Still no... I'm going to take a couple of these. Still no new plants in here, no seeds or anything. So we're still waiting on that a little bit. We'll be back with within maybe an hour or so. All right, we'll probably be going for maybe another hour. We'll see. This might be a bit of a shorter one, so remains to be seen. I think we're just going to replace the platforms in here with new fresh platforms anyway. Because we don't want ruins platforms. All right, I'm just going to clean out some of the blocks here and then start looking at these campaign ideas again in a moment. Is this on a... It was on. One of the blocks we want to get rid of. Let's switch that over. Get rid of the mismatched boards here. I think one thing I do want to avoid a little bit is making it feel too spacey, too sci-fi, which I don't think is something that's too concerning with what's been talked about so far, but it is something I'm going to be keeping in mind regardless. And fill in. There we go. I think that is all the wall there. Got some more to fill in here. Oh, and I've got bad timber up here as well. There we go. All right. Whoops. I did that entirely wrong. And I'm starting to starve, so maybe I'll stop by the vending machine. Where can I put this? Yeah, let's just put it back here. I could get 10 of these rations. It's going to cost everything I have just about, but it'll keep me going while I'm trying to get my food situation sorted. It's a full replenishment, so I think that's fine. I'm going to go up to my ship real quick and offload some of this stuff that I'm not going to use for a while. It's mostly the furniture stuff. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to keep the metal crates because I want those for storage down there. Maybe offload some of this stuff that I'm not going to be using. The mud might be useful later, but the rest can go away. Winter holiday spirits I'm not going to use, so those are just for the holiday stuff. Oh, I was looking at the wrong spot. The manipulator modules are here, so I probably could upgrade my matter manipulator. Give myself the ability to do water. Can I afford any of the others? Nope, so I'll just get the painting one as well. All right. That sorts that. Oh, you know what? I actually wanted to offload some seeds as well. I'm not going to do any of the flower seeds because those are just for coloring and stuff. You know what? Let's go to the science outpost because I haven't gotten there yet. Okay, so we've got the enemy, the kind of the goals, loosely of the enemy. Some vague identity stuff. The details, like I said, will work out later. I'll probably do that myself off stream. Because I don't want to spoil everything about the adventure on stream. But in my notes, I want to make sure I have everything I need to go. So the goal for the villain, I think, is using the Kalkoi to conquer the world. I think the villain is planning to use these creatures to, because of their incredible capability to just disrupt and destroy civilizations, because they will control these creatures and use them as their weapon of sorts to actually take over everything. Oh yeah, this cures madness, doesn't it? Because madness is a thing that happens in these mods. So they're planning to use the Kalkoi to conquer the world. And the reason that they want to conquer the world is probably a good thing to figure out as well. Because just general conquest is kind of a weird goal, right? Unless you have like a reason, it's a weird thing to set out to do. So I think when I'm figuring out this villain, I want to keep in mind why they want to do this. And it's something that I'll be thinking about as we go along here. I don't have the answers just yet, but we will get there in time. Oh, you know what? I think the reason that this species I'm playing as doesn't have is kind of set up different from the rest of the mod ones is because it's from an independent mod, not from the Frackin' Universe pack, if I remember correctly. All right. Anyway. So they're gonna have some sort of goal, and we will figure that out in time. But we do know their core objective is conquer. They want conquest. Maybe it's just that classic idea. Like maybe there's not some ideological reason for it. It's just they want to be the most powerful person around, and they've found a means to do it. Maybe it doesn't need to be anything greater than that, because historically, sometimes conquest probably wasn't more than just that. So I think that is going to be an interesting starting point for expanding into an adventure for a kind of general fantasy setting. Now, there are a couple other things, a couple other ones that I would like to do. One that I mentioned was a zombie apocalypse. So in my Hope Falls setting, it is a setting where things have gone wrong, right? Something has led to the world, civilization, society as we knew it has collapsed. And the kind of the storylines that exist within Hope Falls are the storylines of people trying to figure things out, make things work in that broken world. So I think one of the things that works out really nicely for us in this situation is that we already know a common enemy type. A common enemy is going to be zombies because it's a zombie apocalypse. We already know lore wise what happens to the world, right? We don't know the fine details, but we know zombies. You know, the dead stopped staying dead and started terrorizing the living. That is all you need to know about why the world is the way that it is. Anything more you learn along the way is nice to have, but we've got enough to be able to set the stage, right? Um, so I think I want to go kind of a similar path here. I want to figure out frequent enemy, villain, and their goal. And again, we've got some of those already. We've got the frequent enemy, which is zombies. We don't have a villain, and we don't really have a goal. Now, this is also one that I would probably play a little bit more sandbox style. But that doesn't mean we don't need to have a villain still, or that we can't have a villain that is out there scheming and plotting and working, right? Because even if you've got a common enemy that is a problem for everyone, that is not that enemy, then even if you have that, you're still going to have conflict amongst the people in that world, right? It's inherently a chaotic type of setting. There is no form of law and order really beyond what these fractured surviving peoples make. So a villain for the players in this kind of game could be some sort of new society that has popped up in this apocalypse, in this wasteland. It could be someone who's, out there trying to just do what they think is for the best, and the players just disagree. It could be someone who is using the chaos to serve their own ends, someone who kind of fits the classic raider bandit archetypes of apocalyptic settings. And I think the way I would go about this one is that I will not necessarily have a single villain, right? I'm going to have a couple of choices because I feel like an apocalyptic setting works really well for a sandbox. And when you've got a sandbox, maybe your players do end up siding with the raiders and they play with the evil faction, quote unquote. Or maybe they go the more altruistic route and side with a more benevolent group. Maybe they fall somewhere in between where they might be doing some less savory things, but they're doing it for a greater purpose. So, rather than villains on this one, I think I would list factions. And I think we can do at least at the very least we can do I think 3 of those. right? Based on the kind of the archetypes I just mentioned. You're truly benevolent, you're sort of ends justify the means sort, and you're truly downright awful people. Uh, I think that makes a good balance between a good clear balance, right? Obviously some people might want to play in a world where things are more shades of gray, and I think you can still kind of delve into that even with these factions. You can have members of the raider factions who are still trying to, do some amounts of good, but like the freedom of being with these raiders. You can have people in the truly benevolent faction that are, you know, realizing what their status in this faction can be used to, how it can be used to benefit them. Um, and then obviously you've got your ends justify the means, uh, which is going to feel kind of more of a gray place right from the start. So we've got some options there. I think those are the bulk of what you need for options, but if anyone wants to throw out ideas, the the greatest benefit of brainstorming with multiple people is that you have different perspectives consider things. So uh, I would be eager to hear what ideas anyone else might be able to come up with while we're talking about this. I only have enough for 4 rope. Uh, let's throw the rope onto my bar here. And I don't remember if there's something up there. We're going to see. Oh, no, it's just a path to use later on. So that was kind of a waste of resource, but it's fine in the long run. Should be fine, at least, I should say. Uh, there might be something where I want that rope later on and don't have it. We'll get this bat in just a second. But I'm going to loot these first. All right. Here is an example of where I need the rope. Because I can't jump that high. Hey, more corn. That'll come in handy. I can turn that into oil. So we've got our raider faction, we've got our benevolent faction, we've got our ends justify the means. So I think one way to look at it is that all of these goal groups would probably be looking to do the same thing in a certain sense. They would all be looking to unify this, this region, the region of Hope Falls. But they would be looking to do it for different reasons. The Raiders would be looking to be conquerors. The benevolent faction would be looking to kind of bring back security of civilization, and the ends justify the means. Probably similar, right? They'd be looking to bring back stability that was lost when the world crumbled. Now, as I was saying that, I had a thought that it feels like ends justify the means faction is like the benevolent faction, but just a little bit more morally loose. But what if there was a fourth faction that was more like the Raiders, but just a little bit nicer, kind of the, that same kind of in the middle space, but from the opposite direction? What would that be? Oh, my mouse was off screen, and I missed a few shots there. Um, I will definitely keep thinking about that idea because I'm not sure off the top of my head just yet. But I think it could be a path to consider. All right. Let's see. This place has the means to cook, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that because I don't have a campfire back at my base, so I need to do this. Because otherwise this stuff is gonna start going bad. Corn I'm gonna hold on to, and the robo snacks I'm not gonna do because I want to be able to uh, use that corn and that iron for other stuff. Cooking food in this game really fills your inventory really quickly. Food in general in this game does. All right, got more rope there. That'll come in handy. So I don't have to feel like I'm burning such a valuable resource. Uh, oh, didn't even realize there was a bat there until it was hitting me. Uh, all right, so if we have, let's see. I think, though, for the goals, it would be more interesting if we focused on something other than just those kind of very simple that very simple take. Um, I feel like that might be a bit boring and make them all feel kind of too similar. As if like there's no reason to really consider alternative factions if they all just want the same thing anyway. Um, what am I picking up here? Makes me interesting. What is this? Meyer urchin. Okay. Kind of a status booster food. I cannot go through there yet. I will have to come back here later. Do I go down here then? Is this open now? It is. And this place is full of healing water. And more corn. I'm gonna have to go into the water now. Excuse me. There we go. I could have used her up there, but not really necessary. All right. I think that was something. Yeah, this I can just turn into research. That's easy. I got a bow. This arrow star, that's not going to be super useful here. Got a research book there. And now I have high jump. So now I can clear these jumps without having to use rope or anything. Um, so yeah, I kind of have the basis for what these factions could be, but I think refining them into something beyond just good, bad, and in between would be the way to go. Uh, but I'll have to figure out what those identities could be then. I think having just the, you know, raiders who are looking to conquer is good. Um, I think the clear option to look for inspiration here is to look at Fallout games. I think uh they do quite a few different takes on factions in the various games. In you know the most recent one, Fallout 4, they've got uh the Brotherhood of Steel, who is looking to kind of cleanse the wasteland, right? They want to, get rid of all the bad stuff. You've got the Institute, who's looking to kind of uh, advance humanity, right? That is kind of the on paper that is kind of the goal. Um, you've got the Railroad, who's very kind of one note a little bit, if you ask me. They want to rescue the synths, which isn't inherently a bad concept for a goal, right? But unfortunately, in the games, at least, they don't really do much with them beyond that, and they just kind of end up feeling silly as a faction. At least that's how I feel about it. But let me think about what I had in Hope Falls previously, because I have run games in the Hope Falls setting before, and I've had various factions. Um, I have had a Raider faction which was called the Empire. They were sort of a conglomeration of smaller Raider factions that all united into a greater entity. Uh, as you know, because there was power in numbers, right? So it was only natural for them to kind of come together in that way. Um, Now, I'm definitely going to keep a Raider faction, but it's not going to be the Empire. The Empire had its story in a previous campaign, and I don't want to change it up because in the previous campaign, the Empire was destroyed. They were wiped out, and any survivors of the Empire kind of fell in with other groups. Um, so I mean, you could absolutely do a faction based on an old faction. Have some people who, learned about that history and just say, "Hey, that worked out for these guys until it didn't. But what if we did it and we do it better than they did?" You know, a little bit of arrogance in the leadership, perhaps leading to them going down the same path as the old empire. Maybe we'll do something inspired by that. Um, maybe not use that name, but do I think I do want to have them inspired by the empire. Put that in my notes. What other factions did I have? I had an outcast group. I would have to see if I still have notes on what these groups are called, because I lost a lot of notes on some of my older D&D stuff a while back. A couple years ago, actually. And there was a lot of setting lore and stuff that I had lost at that time. So I might not have that information anymore. But I did have this sort of outcast faction of mutants and other things, because Hope Falls originally was very broad in what I was doing with it. It was a sandbox, and there was a lot going on with it. So I had this kind of outcast faction of people who weren't accepted by typical humans, right? Um, but they were at least amongst each other. They were good for their people, but you know they're very focused in that way, right? There wasn't a general benevolence. It was just if you're one of our people, we're good with you. If you're not one of our people, then you can figure things out on your own. Kind of escape the chaos here. Um, I'm gonna hit him with some of these throwing weapons. They're really nice for doing a bunch of damage all at once, but also not something I use a lot. Oh, and they're and it's passively healing too. Um, let's see. I have spears. I can use spears. Let's see if I can take out these lesser ones real quick. They're kind of a problem. Um, let's see. What other factions did I have there? There was the Outcast, whose name I don't remember. There was the Empire. Um, in a later Hope Falls game, I also had uh this guy who was sort of like a genius type sort, like very book smart, who used robots. He would like fix up robots and use them to serve his ends, whatever his goals ended up being. Um and at the time he was just kind of a minor side antagonist that was just causing trouble for the party that was playing in that adventure. Um Less of something built on the uh as like a main antagonist or anything. Um but might be something that I could expand into a potential full faction, some group that works on I mean, I guess that's kind of Brotherhood of Steel, right? They hoard technology, they build stuff back up. Um but I don't the core identity of the Brotherhood of Steel, I think, are a little bit more uh zealous and like focused on like keeping this stuff out of the hands of everyone else. I think I would probably do something a little bit more. Uh let's see. We'll let me go ahead in my notes. Add in uh machine faction. Uh and these are people who use and rebuild old technology. And what is their goal? What is the goal of someone who uses and rebuilds technology? Um I just keep looping back on Brotherhood of Steel ideas because using that technology kind of falls into that. They wanted to hoard the technology, um, but they keep the kind of the benevolence feeling of uh, making the wasteland a better place by their own definitions and stuff like that. Um, So I'm kind of not sure where I want to go from there. Um, maybe this could be my benevolent faction, right? They or the ends justify the means faction, right? They're trying to use old technology to or not old technology, but use technology to reconnect the world. Um, oh, that could be it. Not necessarily trying to fix everything, but trying to fix the problem that the world used to be connected. There used to be uh, cell networks and internet and things like that, and their goal could now be repairing those systems, right? Bringing that element of the old world back into being because it was lost when everything went down, right? When the world kind of crumbled. So yeah, they are using technology to try to reconnect the world. I think that is good. They're not just trying to fix everything, and maybe they're suspicious of people that might be trying to steal their technology and use it for uh more selfish means. So in general, they're kind of a good group, a good based group, right? They're trying to bring back some of the old world, not just for themselves, but for everyone. Um, I think that's good. I like that. Uh, let's see. What else could there be then? What else did I have? It's hard to remember what I had because I used to have notes on all this stuff that I just don't have anymore. Um, let me see. Uh, actually, while we're here, let's also look at some of the goals for the Raider faction, right? They're inspired by the Empire. They're probably trying to take control of Hope Falls. They want to, because much of Hope Falls is a dangerous wasteland, right? Uh, there's kind of the city of Hope Falls, and then there's the surrounding region of the Great Wastes. Um, and so I think this group would be trying to take control of the ruined city of Hope Falls. And that's what they're all about. Um, they wouldn't have as much interest outside of Hope Falls, I think, because the further you go from the city, the less there is to build off of because it's just empty ruined plains and the occasional destroyed rural uh, just destroyed ruins of old rural civilizations and or societies, as well as the occasional um, just group of apocalypse survivors that are trying to make the best they can out in the wilds, farming and whatnot. Um, all right, I'm just going around here picking up quests and stuff, and then I'm gonna have to see if there's anything else that any quests I have that have come up that I can do. Otherwise, I think I will beam up and then go back to my hideout real quick. So yeah, the Raiders are trying to take control of Hope Falls. Just a classic conquest faction. Um, because I think that works fine in an apocalypse, right? I think this kind of setting plays off of that really well. Where did I get blood? That's concerning. Oh, I got some pop top eggs too. I didn't notice that. I'm not gonna use that anytime soon. Because I don't really have a place to put them. um yeah, let's go back to our base. So we've got our machine faction, we've got our raider faction. Um, I think having a general good guy faction, sort of your Minutemen, who are trying to fix everything because they don't know better, right? Um, and I say because they don't know better. And what I mean by that is that like not that they don't know better, but that they're biting off more than they can chew, right? Their goal is very lofty, um, but it is entirely benevolent, right? And that leads to a lot of problems on its own as well, because a lot of people in an apocalypse situation are going to inherently be selfish. They want to make sure that they can survive first before they put their time and their resources, their blood, sweat, and tears into other things. These guys are kind of the standout group that are there to help everyone else, and that's it, right? Um, Lofty goals, hard to accomplish. So like these are the guys who are trying to rebuild civilization. They're trying to reconnect everything. They're trying to uh uh they're trying to unite the people and make peace everywhere. And it's just so much to tackle all at once for a single group. I want to throw corn in the mill and let that kind of do its thing. While that's doing its thing, it looks like we've had some progress on our corn here. That's good. Um, and it looks like there are plants growing still, so I'm going to throw a third seed into this one to make sure this one can start growing as well. Um, and it's not ideal, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our Fluffalo egg up here. And that's just kind of where that'll live for now. Um, so we've got our plants going. We've got the stuff over here going on. Trying to get more oil so that we can complete that one quest we have. Currently got 7. I think we needed 10. So we should be able to do that with what we have. No problem. Um, Zero G is back. Well, Zero G. um, I've moved on from this kind of fantasy setting with the bug aliens and everything to a zombie apocalypse in Hope Falls. And kind of going at it with the same mindset, I figured I would figure out frequent enemy. We already knew that. It's going to be zombies. It's a zombie apocalypse. So that kind of writes itself. The other things we wanted to figure out were uh, kind of the villain and the villain's goal. But then I figured in a thing like this, it's probably going to be a little bit more broad. There might not be just a single villain who's trying to, I don't know, destroy the world or anything, right? The world already destroyed. There's not really there's not a lot for a villain to seek out beyond what surviving, conquering what's left, you know. Um, and I figure in a sandbox type thing like an apocalypse, because I feel like the apocalypse settings work really well for a sandbox. Um, it can work a lot better if you have alternate paths in mind from the beginning for the players to go. To that end, rather than figuring out a single villain and that villain's goal, I decided to split it up. Instead of figuring out villains, we're figuring out factions. And each of those factions are going to have a goal. So right out the gate, we had to have our raider faction, right? Like some group of raiders that were one way or another inspired to come together as a larger group, and their goal is to take control of this ruined city. They don't care about the wasteland outside the city, they just want the city because there is so much ruined infrastructure there that would be a lot easier to make use of. Now, I also had an idea for a machine faction. This was based on a villain, a very small side villain that I ran in Hope Falls once, quite some time ago. And what this faction wants to do is they want to use technology to reconnect the world. They don't want to fix everything. They're not Minutemen. They just want to. They maybe figured out that the world used to be connected in a number of ways through technology. There was internet, there were phones, just these various ways that people all across the world were connected. And this group would be more of kind of a benevolent group that wants to use technology to reconnect the world. But while they're at it, they are still suspicious of people trying to take the hard work that they've done, the equipment that they have repaired and built, to be used selfishly. So they're maybe a hard group to get in with, but ultimately a benevolent group. Then I figure you got to have your out of their depth benevolent group like the Minutemen, right? They want to fix everything. It's a lofty goal. It's hard to accomplish. It's so much to take on for a single group, but that's what they want to do. They're trying to bring back society, as a relatively secure, safe thing, and have law and order back in place, and have it to where people aren't struggling to survive anymore. And that gives me 3 solid factions, I feel like. 3 that I can really build off of in this setting. But initially what I started off with was basically good, evil, and then in between were the factions. So you had the good guys who are trying to fix everything, the bad guys who are trying to conquer everything. You had the in between, who ultimately the idea was based on ends justify the means. So they want to do good things, but they're a little bit morally loose in doing so. But I also thought maybe having kind of the opposite of that, a selfish group that, bad guys with the hearts of gold kind of a thing, maybe. A little bit not quite as evil as your Raider faction, but still generally out for themselves is kind of what I was going for. But then I kind of figured, I kind of evolved from that to coming up with like the Machine faction, who is a little bit different than any of that, right? It's a little bit more specific, has some more identity to it. So I'm still trying to figure out what else I might want to do with factions here. Is here. What I did for the game I ran for Vanny, I made it like everything was happening at once. Modern apocalyptic setting. There were Elder Trolls mixed with zombies, mixed with bandits, and bad guys mixed with aliens, etc. That is exactly what I first did with Hope Falls. It was originally going to be a West Marches style game, in the sense that the party composition was going to be whoever is free whenever they're free, and they would do whatever they want to do, but I would always be the DM. That's kind of how I was setting it up, and quickly enough realized that of the people who showed interest in the game initially, only a few actually showed up to play. So I turned it into just a normal single party kind of sandbox campaign uh, that had aliens and robots and bandits and zombies and eldritch horrors and stuff like that. Um, and later on, I did a campaign that was kind of a refined take on Hope Falls, a whole new group, and it still had a lot of those elements. There was Eldritch Horrors in session one. There were cultists and raiders, and there was this guy who used robots. That is kind of what I used as the basis for this machine faction. Um, it it's been a fun experience every time I've used Hope Falls. So I'm really looking uh to do more of it. I'm really excited to do more with it. I think I need to put this somewhere out of the water. I don't know if it's going to hatch in the water. Let's see if we can put it over here. There we go. Um, yeah, actually, I can get rid of the water problem by just getting rid of this block and putting it over there. Problem solved. I could also fix the water problem by just patching up the ceiling. I think that'll deal with it for the most part. She watched a fire team of army rangers fight this group of mutant zombies. Some of the group of zombies merged together like an eldritch cannon, and the 50 cal gunner got acidified. Incredible. Um, I had a group of players who watched I introduced the party to this setting through this place called the Crossroads. It was it was a place where you could travelers would go to the Crossroads to do trading and stuff. It was a trading post. They also kind of ran messengers through the Crossroads and stuff like that. It was a place that was very safe, very secure, very helpful. And within the first session, they got a quest to go to this nearby old ruined school, this like old world school, and deal with some bandits that the Crossroads Rangers had spotted moving into the place. The reason the players were being sent there, as opposed to the Crossroads Rangers, who were a very well trained, well equipped military group, is because a team of Rangers had gone to this place, and only one of this team made it out. This team of like 5, I think. Because it turned out that these raiders weren't just normal raiders, they were cultists. And while they were investigating these ruins, they came across sort of this cult gathering where these people were chanting together and just generally being creepy. And as soon as the Rangers showed up, this cult went hostile against them. So they're trying to retreat out of this building. And throughout the place, different events were happening that led to the Rangers getting picked off one by one. And at the very end, the second to last Ranger was the surviving Ranger witnessed this other Ranger have their head just be obliterated. There was no gunshots. There was nothing. They just saw this person spontaneously died in this gruesome fashion. And they were kind of messed up by it. And when they got back, they gave their report. And so the Crossroads was looking for a group that was maybe a little bit more expendable to see if they could get rid of this cult and get back the ID tags of the rangers that they lost. So the players go to this place, kind of run them through this horror scenario. None of them can see in the dark, so they're relying on a flashlight and that only one of the players had, and they're relying on just trying to be very careful and stealthy as they go about this. And they're going through this whole place. They're not seeing a single enemy. Um, because what happened was a lot of the cultists were wiped out by the Rangers while they were retreating, either by gunning them down or using explosives to take out a huge group of them. Eventually, the players get all of the ID tags back. None of the other Rangers survived. They already knew this going into it because of the accounts of this one Ranger who did survive, the only one who made it back. And they return to the town to find that they return to the town, trying to remember the sequence of events because I don't even have the notes on this anymore. They return to the town and kind of do their business with these people. They interact with the surviving ranger and find out that his mental state is deteriorating due to what he had encountered. Just like trying to make sense of what he saw, and it's not working because it inherently is a very alien thing that he witnessed that he cannot make sense of. And eventually this ranger goes completely insane and turns against the people of the crossroads. There are no other rangers left because he's already turned what remained of the overall ranger faction to his side, kind of spread his madness to them and some of the other members of the crossroads. So the remaining faction of sane people flee, set up a checkpoint where the players kind of meet up with them, and they get this mission to go in to scout out the crossroads and figure out where this guy is so they can take him out. They get up to this place. This guy already knows that they're coming. He's posted up on the wall and watches them approach. He says some stuff. They say some stuff back. And the guy who is on the gun of the truck that the players are in turns the gun down to the engines of the truck and just starts firing. This guy is lost. He's already a lost cause. And as they are just panicking, retreating, they took out this guy that was their gunner, and they're just fleeing this place. They see the sky opens up. They see this creature that doesn't have a singular description because they all saw something slightly different. It was what they saw was what their mind was trying to make sense of, this unexplainable horror that they were witnessing. And there were 3 flashes, 3 rumbles of something like thunder. And with each of those moments, a portion of the Crossroads settlement was pulled out of this world. In the end, the players were the only people who seemed to witness this otherworldly event. Everyone else around saw that event as a bomb being detonated in the settlement and destroying the entire place. So they make sense that this group of this kind of rebellion decided to just destroy the crossroads because they'd gone crazy or something. And the players are the only ones who actually knew what actually happened, and even they couldn't fully make sense of it. And with that, the players no longer had the safety and security of the crossroads. They didn't have a place that they could fall back to. And that's when the campaign really started and opened up as a proper sandbox for the players to explore and try to survive in. So that's kind of where it actually got exciting and interesting. Uh, let's go ahead and eat more rice. I need to make a campfire because I need to be able to cook my food. Yeah, so if it wasn't clear through the retelling of that sequence of events, I'm really looking forward to use Hope Falls again. I had a lot of fun with it. Uh, though the goal this time is for it to be a zombie apocalypse instead of something more broad and general. There, I think I would still have elements of other things besides zombies, because otherwise it might get a little boring if the only enemies are zombies and humans. But uh, I'm looking forward to seeing what can be done with it, with a zombie apocalypse as opposed to just an unexplained apocalypse that happened so long ago that no one really knows what's going on. That got 31, that's got 78, that's got 39. So let me split this water. Oops. I want to split it by half. Put that in there. So they're all pretty close to the same water now. Um, I'm going to need to figure out the fertilizer situation because I don't know. I don't have anything else yet. Um, Probably do that through here. You could do settlement building. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that would make the whole situation really interesting is some element of settlement building. I definitely have fun with that kind of stuff, trying to figure out what the best ways to implement it and stuff are. So it's definitely something I want to mess with again. Let's do some research real quick. Works, wood construction, culinary arts, that could be useful because I don't have bizarre cooking too. I don't know what that refers to, but we'll do it. Um, Nothing in chemistry. Nothing in electronics. I would need wire and a potato for this. Actually, I can make wire. And I don't have any potatoes anymore, though. Never mind. We'll hold off on that. Scavenging, settlement building, raider raiding, bad guy hunting, virus origin, vaccine research. Yeah, that's a good point of having some concept of what can be done in this setting. I think that's good to take note of. So let me make note of that real quick. All right. Um, okay, so I have some concept of some factions. I have concept of some gameplay elements to lean into, and I know that it's going to be a very zombie heavy thing. Giving each player a role would be a smart idea. That's interesting because I feel like that's something that I would maybe approach before the campaign starts, but not something that I would dictate necessarily. I think it would be something I would probably approach players and be like, kind of propose the idea and prompt them to have in mind what they would want their role to be. All right. Let me see. Did I have any more research I could do? Tinkering, spacefaring, and vehicles. That's again the scope of what I'm trying to do right now, I think. Geology. Might as well research geology tiers, right? In fact, I could just go all the way with it. I don't think I'm gonna go quite that far. Uh, Organic smelting might be useful. I don't know. Um, Craftsmanship. I do want to do this one because I am building a base now, so I want to be able to do that well enough. So I'll have the wooden workbench and the kitchen counter that I can make now. I need a bunch of timber for those. Kitchen counter I'll do first, just in case, because I don't know what other materials I need. I'll be good either way. Okay. Oh, and I can make an anvil now, so I can start working on armor. So I can... Did I not hit craft on this? Need more timber. Make an anvil. Yeah, I think for like an apocalypse situation where it's like kind of a sandbox and you're going to be working on things like scavenging and settlement building and stuff like that, I think having some idea of roles would definitely help. Um, Also, like you mentioned sci-fi, and immediately my mind going to like spacefaring. Having idea for what your roles are when you're adventuring in space, like um if the party has a ship and stuff like that, if you have any kind of headquarters, just in general in D&D, I think having the players have some idea of what they do in that headquarters, whether it is like a stronghold in a fantasy setting or a settlement in an apocalypse or a ship in sci-fi, having some idea of roles, I think, is a very useful thing. And it can help kind of inform what those players are doing when they're at those places, when it's on a ship or in their settlement or whatever the case might be. Um, so I'm gonna try to find places to put my new things here. I keep turning off the torches. Uh, gross. The kitchen cart is in the bathroom. I actually need to get rid of this anyway so that I can work on the background a little bit easier. But yeah, while we're at it, we'll just kind of see about finishing things out here by patching up the walls a little bit more. There we go. So that room is all patched up. This one is patched up as much as I can do because I don't have access to the materials to baseboards, the flooring, or the dividers there. This one, same situation. Up here, kind of same situation. Down here, I haven't cleaned up the walls yet. So on right here, get rid of some of these overgrown plants on the outside. Get rid of the old timber and replace it real quick. We are nearing the end of our stream here, coming up on about 5 minutes left. Um, I think still time for some last minute additions to the D&D talk, but I think we got the bulk of kind of what I set out to do done, which is nice. Let me make some more timber real quick. I'm gonna pick up all this stuff as well because I can't see the background. I also need to clean up this mud here. I think I might also change up how the backgrounds in this room are designed in this building. Are done anyway, but for now I'll just repair it as it's been designed. Ah, all right, all right. I think this go up this way. Then I'll just need to get 2 boards to put in there and do the other elements of this place that I can't do yet. Um, do I have a torch? I have many. So just put one there real quick so I can see what I'm doing. Actually, do we have... Yeah, there's plant matter in the background there. That was hard to see because that was behind the door. All right. I'll just clean up these plants and the cleanup process of this building will be done. We'll just need to patch it up whenever I play next. Um, what I will say about playing next is that this stream did partially serve the purpose of me wanting to do more RPG content on stream. Um, it just did it in such a way that I am able to use the game as a backdrop rather than trying to come up with other things to put on screen. So also gave me something to kind of occupy my mind with while I'm also trying to think of things for these future campaigns. Um, but and I think we might do a little bit more of this in the future. This sort of thing where we're just playing a game, talking about RPGs, and having a good time doing that. Hmm. How did I do this before? Surely. Now this must be getting in the way, but then... Oh, you know what? Maybe I can fit this one here and this one over here. There we go. And then this I can just chuck into the divot there. And we're good. We're golden. If you do a Mass Effect one, I call dibs. Yeah, I think that's the next one I'll probably want to work on is refining the Maelstrom Galaxy into a proper campaign because I never actually I had the concept for that, but never really worked it into a functional campaign. So I think that's the next one I'm going to work on. next time I do one of these kinds of streams, or just, even off stream, because I do stuff off stream sometimes too. All right, well, that's that. That's gonna be it for tonight's stream. I hope everyone had a good time following along. Want to be a path spotter? Incredible. Um, Absolutely. I am definitely looking forward to doing that. Um, oh, what did I call it? The ship was Stargazer. That was kind of the arc that I had in mind. What were the people called? Seekers. Yeah, because it was the Seekers initiative, because I'm super clever and original, and came up with that totally originally, and not as a cheap knockoff to Pathfinders. Um, Let me go ahead and see here. Oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and raid Vector. Vector's playing a game. Let's raid Vector. Vector Spaceman. It's playing Ollie Ollie World. Not something that I'm familiar with, but it's Vector Spaceman, so I'm sure it'll be a good time. All right, have a good one, everyone.